This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
All of us are looking for a life of meaning and significance. A life that makes a difference in the world. A life that truly matters. We believe this is found through the right people, platform, and purpose. We call this movement 3. It starts with giving people greater health through the power of our proactive wellness products. 3's innovative formulas deliver demonstrable results by maximizing bioavailability and cellular absorption, ensuring people everywhere can enjoy the nutrition they need to operate at their best. Building on our foundation of people-focused products, we provide a platform for unparalleled entrepreneurship and personal growth. 3 is there beside you every step of your journey towards building a business and a better life. Finally, we know that a sense of real purpose, the kind that moves hearts, minds, and mountains, comes through serving and elevating others. This philosophy is reflected in our caring community, which bring hope and life-saving help to people around the world. It's time to redefine what's possible and activate your full potential. It's time to live a life of purpose. It's time for 3.
Hey, you made it. You've arrived here at World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment, the show that brings you all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now, if you are a seeker of understanding the reality beyond what your ego and the media allow you to see, then you are in the right place. And before we meet our most excellent featured guests, please take a moment to click the link below to get your copy of my enlightening book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. It is the perfect gift for the spiritual seeking reader on your gift list. So our guest is Aline Ra M, and she is a spiritual guide, energy healer, teacher, and author. Her work is to establish a solid foundation for spiritual growth and soul fulfillment. She supports people in fostering a direct self-sustained connection to the divine within themselves. Yay, somebody's doing that. That's great. Aline blends deep insights about spirituality with practical tips that speak directly to authentic spiritual growth in yourself and the modern world. And she mentors her clients one-on-one programs, offering online courses, in-person remote healing sessions, and workshops. And she is the author of the book, and I love this title, Bullshit-Free Mindfulness, an uncommon guide for joy in everyday life. So what a great title. Welcome, Aline. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Carl. Excited to be here today talking to you.
Well, I think it's so cool that you're on here. Of course, you're perfect to be on the show. I love what you do. And just so my readers know, I'm in cold U.S. in the Midwest, and Aline is down in Brazil at the moment. She's a world traveler, but she's heading back to Europe in the next day or two. But let's find out more about you. Before we head off and find out about your work as a spiritual guide, coach, and energy healer, I'd like to find out about your earlier life and how you got to where you are now doing what you do as a spiritual coach and healer.
Yeah, so actually started on this path extremely early in my life. It's not the most usual path that I had. I actually had a natural opening as a child. I started hearing voices, and it was actually quite scary. It wasn't like a nice voice talking to me. I couldn't sleep. So I had this opening and I couldn't understand what was happening. That led me to having insomnia early in life. But it also led me to ask, what is this? What is this thing that I'm listening? Why is it that nobody else can hear this? What is this? So in a way, it's my path started out of this natural opening, sure, but in a way out of necessity to sort of protect myself because it wasn't easy. I needed to be able to take care of myself. And at the same time, I was really curious. I wanted to know, what is this? What is this so-called reality? That there's so much more beyond what we can see. So this is how I started. I was kind of lucky in a way. Actually, my parents never believed in anything. Both of my parents are scientists. So I didn't have any kind of support at home, but I was born and raised in an island that is extremely spiritual. It's actually nicknamed the island of the witches and the magic island.
Wow.
So there are quite a few different schools and lineages here. So even though Brazil is a quite Catholic country, it's also extremely esoteric country. And the place where I was born, there was a lot going on. So I could have the help of some of my friends' parents that took me to places that could help me. And that's how I started my studies. I was just 14 when I started meditating in my studies. At the same time, I was quite self-conscious that what I was going through was not normal, that people were going to tell me I'm crazy. So I didn't openly share that. I kind of kept it to myself for a very long time. And I had a pretty much normal life. I went to high school, I went to university, I went to business school, I worked for many different kinds of companies, keeping my spirituality as my own thing. However, I got to a point in my life that I couldn't break myself into because I started feeling that I was not being fully authentic. So I had this office life and I had this life of my own beliefs that I wasn't really sharing. And it got to a point as an adult, as an early adult, that started causing me much suffering. I was breaking myself internally. And then I left everything. I left my job without a plan. I left my country. I left my relationship. And that's how I got to actually where I am now. When I did that, I didn't think I was going to work with spirituality. I was just doing out of following my inner call. It was quite surprising even for me to start working with it. But yeah, we never know what's going to happen. We just follow the crumbles.
Wow, what a great story. A daughter of two scientists, and the daughter's a spiritual seeker. I love that. But that's not uncommon to hear youngsters who are in touch with different unseen realms, and they don't understand what's going on, and then the world around them kind of forces them to suppress that. So, but you were able to get beyond that. I did read that at the age of 14 years old, you joined something called the Modern Mystery School in Shivoham Tantra. What are those?
Actually, when I was 14, I joined Rosicrucian Order. I joined those later. I've joined quite a few different types of mystery schools in my life. And the first one that I joined was the Rosicrucian Order, which is quite openly available everywhere in the world these days. So all of the things that I joined, after I joined Gnosis as well, and then I joined Shivoham Tantra and Modern Mystery School, there are different lineages, but they're all initiatory-based schools. These schools have existed for thousands of years, all of them. When I tell people that I've been to mystery schools from an early age, people think like Harry Potter kind of thing. But the truth is, these schools have existed for a very long time. They're just not naturally open in a way. It's more the kind of thing that if you were supposed to go there, you will find about them, or they will find you. It's kind of the old saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will come and find you. And that's what I actually meant before saying that I was lucky, because those schools have always come to me. So it has always been fascinating for me that when I talk about those with many people, they never heard of them. When for me, they just came to me. I never even looked for them. So it's, yeah, so those are different schools. They have different origins, but many times they intertwine. For instance, Gnosis has a big background in Druidism, which is from Celtic culture. Mm-hmm. And Rosicrucian comes from Egypt, ancient Egypt. So it's a very old tradition. Mm-hmm. Shivoham Tantra is traditional Tantra, so it's an Eastern school. Mm-hmm. The modern mystery school is based on the lineage of King Solomon, so it's closer to Rosicrucian in that sense.
You said
I don't know if that makes sense. It's a lot of words, but it's different initiatory paths. What this means is that you have a series of progression within the school, and each progression increases your energy field to be able to handle more energy. But it also teaches you how energy works, what to do with it. So today you see many people playing around with the spirituality and energy, kind of learning on their own. But then it's like, there's so many illusions on this path. Mm-hmm. And you don't have necessarily help to keep you grounded and guided throughout the path. And just as I wouldn't start math from scratch, I have a math teacher who can teach me many things so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. These schools are there so I don't have to reinvent the wheel, so I can keep the progression and the expansion and evolution. So that is a bit of, in a nutshell, how they work.
Now, you mentioned that these organizations were initiation-based. Why do you need to be initiated into these organizations? What does that do?
So first is the understanding of what is an initiation, because we can think about the literal meaning of the word, that is just to begin something, to just enter something. Like if you just got accepted in a university, you could say you were initiated in it. But that is the literal meaning. That is not the spiritual meaning of the word initiation. When you receive an initiation, that is actually a ceremony. It's an actual ritual that changes your energy field, that expands your energy field so you can handle much more light and energy. So you're going to have a stronger connection with light from then onwards. And it also creates a stronger bond with the school itself. The school itself is not only the people who are alive, it's everybody who has walked on that path throughout the thousands of years. There is what we call egregore. Every single social organization creates a spiritual entity, so to speak, that is holding that energy. The same happens in prisons, in schools, in governments. Whenever you get a group of people, you also create a spiritual entity of the energy of that place. That's one of the reasons why social organisms can be so strong in their ways of being and difficult to change. But when you have an initiation, you are actually changing your energy field. And that is going to allow you to have a much stronger connection with light, and more energy and more information, more divine information will be able to come to you naturally. So it's a very special thing, actually. It's a beautiful thing to be initiated. And I have had the luck to be initiated in many different lineages. So, yeah.
Wow. This is great. Another thing that I read about you, you have 5 concepts that you teach to people for living a happier life. You have clarity, living from the heart, connection, spiritual growth, and how to meditate better. Can you talk more about these and why they're important?
Yes. So I have the foundations of spiritual growth that are slightly different than those, but we can definitely talk about these ones that you brought up. How to meditate better is something that I love talking to people about, because it's not easy to meditate. It's definitely not easy. So I'm not going to say like just sit and meditate. And I like to see that there are 2 different currents of thought when it comes to meditation. One, it comes from Buddhism, which is you just sit and meditate. It doesn't matter how hard it is, you're going to sit and meditate. It's all about willpower. Willpower conquers all. And I am actually a yoga teacher as well. And yoga is all about teaching people how to meditate by preparing them to meditate, calming the body, learning to be more stillness, learning to breathe properly again, is the understanding that this union that we're looking for, because that's why we meditate. We're looking for this union with ourselves and with the divine, to not be dispersed, to go back to our center. And through our center, since we are one with all, we find the whole in that stillness. So yoga is this understanding of the challenges that exist, of why we can't meditate, and making small steps towards going in that direction. So it's very educational. And of course, many yoga teachers don't say, well, the reason why we do yoga is to meditate. And many people, when they think about yoga, they only think about postures. But actually, yoga is much bigger than that. So I like to just bring yoga in a completely different way to people. That is more the philosophy of yoga and different components, because different people have different challenges. Some people might need to do the physical part more than others. Other people need the breathing aspect or the concentration aspect. So yoga in itself is such a huge science. That can be much better integrated into our lives for spiritual growth. Can you remind me of another one of the pillars that you asked me about?
Well, one of the things that I really seem to gravitate to is, let's see, living from the heart. Let's talk about that.
Oh, that's my favorite one, actually. How could I have missed that one?
That's why I asked it.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so we live a lot in our minds. And for me, spiritual growth is the path of living from the heart. That is what this path really is about. However, our minds are so strong, they act like a filter, making it hard for us to reach, to come into our hearts. And that's why in this path, we start so much with the mind, with making it still, letting go of judgments, letting go of being in the future, so much planning. So all this work we do in our minds is just so that we have a better chance to get to our hearts, because our essence lives in our hearts. And this ability to fully live, to give and to receive from life, to love, to just be here now in the present moment, to dare to go to build our visions and dreams and live a fulfilling life, a joyful life, because sometimes we may feel that we have everything, but our hearts are not in our lives. We have the job, we have the house, we have the family, we have the friends, but we are not content, because we worked so hard for everything from our mind that was hustling and struggling with everything, that we lost connection with actually being there in our hearts, enjoying it and doing it with purpose. There's so many people that criticize these days the regular way of living, do I have to have a family, a dog, and a car? And maybe for some people, they really want that, and maybe other people don't want that. I'm not here to say one is right or wrong, but it's different from really wanting it, from just replicating because that's what everybody does and that's what is expected. And living from the heart is understanding what is it that we truly want, what actually makes a difference, what actually matters. Because the heart is so simple in a way, it doesn't need 10,000 things. It is our minds that live in this fear of missing out, that has that 20 to-do lists every single day. And living from the heart is about understanding what are the things that actually matter to me? Why am I doing what am I doing? What is the point of the things? Is this really, truly what my heart is longing? What is my vision of life? What do I live for? And those questions can guide us to live authentically and joyful and fulfilling lives.
And it's interesting. I don't know if you've ever heard of the organization Heart Math, but they teach that the heart-brain connection is super powerful, and that the heart influences our perceptions, emotions, intuition, and health. And even the follow-up to A Course in Miracles, A Course of Love, talks about living from wholeheartedness, which is the brain-heart connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's super important. I mean, when I say living from the heart, in no way I mean that the mind is not important, that there should live it. It's just about putting it in the right place in a way, because the way that we live, finding problems, finding challenges everywhere, like avoiding the big works, it's allowing the mind to run the show. The mind just sees problems and things to fix and things to plan. because we allow it to be the director. And what I suggest, my approach is that we make the heart the director and the mind an amazing, how do you say, employee of the heart. Because some people as well, they live from the heart. So we can see this a lot as well. People that are living from the heart, but they are completely disconnected from their mind. So they have all these dreams that never come true. They are just dreams. For me, the magic is when the heart is the guidance. It says, this is what I want. I don't need anything but this. And now mind, make it work. Because the mind has this ability to do the hard work, to overcome the challenges, to see the possible solutions, to figure out the steps. And that's amazing. We need that. It's both working together, bringing their different qualities to the table. So our essence lives in our hearts, and we can fully be able to listen and to trust ourselves, trust that we are worthy of what we want and who we are, to not have shame of ourselves, to accept ourselves, and put all these other faculties, our mind, our bodies, our instincts, everything working together for those visions of the heart. So that's how I see it. It's like we have this car and we need to know who is behind the wheel, but we still need 4 wheels to work with it,
So since most people are living from the mind without letting their heart lead, is that why in today's world so many people live lives without purpose or direction, have no clue what they want out of life?
Well, confusion is as well one of my favorite topics. I love talking about clarity because we live in our minds, but we still have no clarity, which means that clarity does not come from the mind. Clarity comes from the heart. Clarity comes from self-connection, from knowing ourselves, from accepting ourselves. I often see people that want clarity, and when I go and talk to them, I see that they actually have clarity. What they don't have is self-acceptance of what they want. They struggle with themselves. They have self-judgment and dialogues saying that they're not good enough, that it's not the right time. They carry so much shame and self-worth issues. So it's never about, of course, we have moments that we're confused, that things are changing, and we just need some silence to see things clearly. But most often we know what we want, but we struggle a lot with ourselves because we're lacking our connection to our hearts and this self-love part that is so crucial to accept who we are and what we want.
I agree with you as a life coach. The vast majority of the clients I work with have serious self-worth issues, or that they don't feel like they're worthy of having their greatest and highest dreams and aspirations. It's kind of in many ways been beaten out of them since they were little kids. Well, nobody in our family has done that. Why should you?
Yeah, exactly. The journey towards self-love is a journey of much healing of the inner child that is still digesting those things that wasn't able to feel back then, and that we haven't digested yet. We all carry so many more emotional wounds than we think. The expansion of spiritual growth and becoming who we are comes hand in hand with healing everything that is not allowing us to be who we are, all the different stories, all the different traumas, some things that we don't even remember, like small episodes that caused tremendous effect in how we see ourselves and our relations to people and to our families. So self-love it's such a deep topic. It's not, it's not only self-care, it's really self-healing. By self-care, I mean the wellness industry. It's not massages. It is talking to that inner child inside of us and showing mainly to ourselves that we can take care of ourselves, that now we are the grown-ups and we can, if mom didn't show up to pick up us in the school when we were kids multiple times, leading us to feel that we were abandoned and not taken care of, the ability to see the root cause of something, and then the ability to take care of ourselves, saying, hey, Aline, I'm here for you now. We don't need mom to pick us up anymore because I can always pick you up and I will always take you home. I know it sounds silly, but this makes a huge difference to our nervous system and to our hearts, because when we are grown-ups, we need to be able to be our own parents. And it comes with love. We can give ourselves the love that we didn't get. I mean, our parents did the best that they can, but everybody is hurt in a way or another. So we have these wounds, and the ability to see the wounds that we have and to be able to take care of ourselves instead of blaming something or dismissing it. That's self-love.
Another concept that I think is a big help, and at some point, whether in childhood or in adulthood or both, the traumas and dramas of life, create a lot of reasons to hold grudges and be angry. But I found that forgiveness is a real key in letting go and letting go of those negative, low vibrating energies that keep you pinned in that place.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I love talking about forgiveness as well when it comes to the heart, because the heart is all about giving and receiving.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a light heart. To have a heart that is light as a feather is a heart that takes everything in and lets everything out. So just as we tend to speak a lot about gratitude, which is beautiful, gratitude is important, but that's only half of the coin. That's this receiving part. We need to give away. And forgiveness is that other side, to not hold grudges. And I mean, I know it can be very difficult for many, and we don't have to start talking about forgiveness about the big pieces of life. We can go back to the small things that happen to us, even every day, and even forgiving ourselves. It's not only about forgiving others, but forgiving ourselves by the repeated mistakes and the repeated patterns and the small things that we do every day. So it's both things. And start noticing it and giving ourselves the ability to give that away, to let it go. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It's a beautiful topic, forgiveness.
And I think when we forgive ourselves, we're actually, in the long run, are forgiving those around us that we couldn't forgive before, because it's no longer important.
For sure. And I mean, it's very difficult to do things to others when we cannot practice it with ourselves. If we can start having a little bit more self-compassion, it's much easier to have compassion with others, because we're so similar in ways. We're committing such similar faults. And the moment that we see that, okay, I did the same. And that's why in the spiritual path, it's so important to look more inwards. What is it that it's going on with me? What is it that I'm doing, instead of pointing fingers? Because at the end of the day, we're just doing everything, doing the same. And I cannot keep complaining that the government is corrupt when I'm being corrupt in my small ways in life. And the ability to see myself fully and to forgive myself, to have self-compassion, to understand why I'm doing this and heal so I can adjust my conduct. That allows me to be a much better speaker and fixer of problems, so to speak, in the outside world. Because if I cannot do that, the moment that I'm compassionate with myself, and I can be compassionate with others that are doing the same, I can be there from a place of love and understanding. But if I don't have compassion and I cannot even see what I'm doing, the moment that I'm pointing fingers, I'm just yelling and pointing out what is wrong from this place of anger. And that won't fix the world. So that's another side of, if we start with ourselves, we have a much better chance of having impact.
One of my favorite forgiveness rituals is the Hawaiian spiritual practice of Ho'oponopono, where the four phrases: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And you're actually saying that to yourself. And then it spreads to everything around you that you perceive. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful practice. I have quite a few friends that practice daily. It's super sweet. All spiritual practices, when we do them in alignment, they spread to the world. All self-caring and self-healing goes to the world. We are all connected. We are all one. And it spreads energetically simply by doing it. But it also changes us, which means that in every single interaction we have with other people, we are going to be different, and we can touch people in different ways.
Yeah, and you know what you just said, we're all connected, we're all one. Really, that's why we're here, you and I, why I do the show, why you do what you do, because that's the ultimate teaching. But you know, I have a term that I'm just curious on how you would describe it. What does it exactly mean when you're spiritually grounded?
Well, it's the same thing as just grounded. It doesn't need to be necessarily the spiritual part of it. It's just about being grounded itself. This is actually also all topics are my favorite topics. I'm gonna keep on saying this is my favorite topic. It is about being here on this planet and not being physically here, but not being here. We are here on planet Earth in physicality. We didn't come all the way here to not be here all the time. It's about being able to do one thing at a time, to be present right here, right now, not in our minds, in the future, in the past, to be able to simplify things, to be connected to our bodies, to not be only carried by our minds. And that what that allows is for the energy, in the case of spirituality, for it to come down, because we are vessels, we are conductors of energy. And the more we do spiritual work, we are receiving on this information and of this energy. It needs to come down to the earth and to humanity through us. Mm. But if we're not grounded, it cannot do it because it stops here, which is, that has always been a problem in spirituality, in the sense that many people see spirituality as a curiosity thing. Like they love talking about it. They love practicing here and there, but they're not grounding it. So the energy is not coming down and actually changing anything. It's not embodied in their being, in their behaviors, so that it can change things. And that, in the case of spiritual groundedness, that's what we're aiming at. We are here. We are not practicing spirituality to be meditating 24/7, just to be contacting another realm. We do these practices to bring those energies here to change our reality, to live better here on Earth. So planet Earth is not an easy place to live.
No, it's not.
Know, which is understandable why some people really don't want to be here. And many people do use this spirituality as an escapism. It takes them to this place that is flowers and rainbows, where they don't have to deal so much with the cruelties of this world. And I understand this. I've been there many times. So I'm not like pointing fingers here. I've done that. But it is about understanding that spirituality allows us to be agents of change by anchoring that energy in us, by changing our behaviors and being here, enjoying being on Earth, living life. We're here to live life. If all we needed to do was meditate, we wouldn't need to come here.
So I guess you could say that being spiritually grounded is basically a continual awareness of our higher true self and staying connected with it at all times.
And sustaining that in the physical body in everyday life. So having a regular human life as well, with human interactions, dealing with human problems, and being able to hold that centeredness and that divine state while we do everything. So it's not running away from the human experience, but still being fully here, being in connection with our bodies, living this fully.
Yeah. So I'm curious, have you ever had yourself an extraordinary spiritual experience? I know you said when you were young, you heard voices, or any type of Kundalini awakenings or anything like that?
All the time. My life is a crazy roller coaster. It's my life is a film full of special effects.
Wow. Yeah. You're going to have to wear sunglasses to see all those sparks shooting off.
Yeah, and that connecting to the subjects that you said, that's why grounding is so important, because those energies are very high frequency and they can make regular life very difficult. It is very easy on those moments to not be functional, to completely let go of your human body, to forget to eat for long periods of time without consciously fasting, to not like, I've had so many kind of weird accidents of like just having seizures and things like that, because the energy is really high. The only way I can sustain it is if I'm extremely grounded, if I have a strong body that is here now, so that I can come back to it. So things can get a bit crazy. Yeah. So being grounded, the more grounded we are, the more up we can go. It is literally the metaphor of the tree. We need the strong roots that can take us back. Otherwise, we are gone and we're just escaping this reality. Yeah.
Wow. Uh, um, I'd like to find out more about your energy healing. What are your abilities and modalities of energy healing that you do?
I do quite a few different things. I do many activations, activating different channels in people. So fostering connections that are dormant in people's aura right now in their etheric bodies. So I have those are all from the lineage of King Solomon, mostly of my healings. Life activation is the main one that I normally tell people to begin with. It creates a much stronger channel with your higher self, so that more light can start coming through, because you're going to have 12 new channels for light to come down on you, pretty much. So that allows people to have much more clarity of their direction, their purpose. Intuition gets much stronger. So this is a more like something for people that wants to have more clarity, more connection with the divine selves. I also do emotional cord cutting. So if people have, it can be maybe relationships or emotional patterns that are struggling to go away, I can energetically cut them out of their field. So allowing them to heal much better. Because whenever we have emotional cords with people, they can be draining. There are two sides of the cord. So I can just go there and cut the cord. It doesn't mean that you're going to forget the person or other relationship or anything. It's cutting the emotional pattern. So you have a better chance to rewrite the story. It's the emotional load that we're removing. I do as well negative energy removal. So when we feel like there's especially people working very heavy environments, or if we feel like there's too much energy coming our way that is stopping us, that is getting us heavy, I can just take that out. I do other things as well. I can wake up different energies in the aura so that a person has more connection to their purpose. I can do tunnels of protection of Archangel Michael. I can do a lot of stuff. It's a bit crazy. Yeah. So I also do more regular things like Reiki sessions and crystal healings that also have their gentleness. I think there's a big difference between certain energy healing modalities and others, because some of them, like the most normal ones, the person doesn't have much control of what is happening, they're just trusting that the energy is doing its thing. Whereas others, like the life activation of the energy cord cutting, or when I'm activating things on people's auras, I'm more commanding light to do things. I have a more active role. And I know exactly what I'm doing and where I'm doing it, what energy I'm moving, what I'm putting where. So it's a much more refined type of work, so to say. And I do most of them I can only do in person, but I do have one that I can do like remotely, like a distance healing. So yeah.
Yeah, I have many guests on here who are Reiki masters, and they can do distant healing or local healing. So I'm curious too, though, since you grew up in South America, have you ever done any plant medicine ceremonies?
I have. I had a part like quite some years ago that I explored that, but that is something that I have left behind.
Mm-hmm.
The more I progressed in my own faculties, the more I understood the importance of having total mastery over all my capabilities and my senses, and never having any kind of intermediary. So these days I don't see any point of any of those medicines. I actually think they can confuse the energy system and energy body. So I think can be quite, I'd say be quite cautious with those things for people that want to, I mean, as I say, it's about creating like this self-sustained connection with the divine within ourselves. Mm-hmm. We don't need anything. We need some energies to be awakened and some keys, but we don't need intermediaries.
Yeah, and I would guess that a plant medicine ceremony is an intermediary. It helps, my understanding, and I've never done it, but my guests have talked to me, say basically it pulls away the ego's veil that has blocked, your vision of seeing your higher self. And so perhaps it's just a step on the journey to that spiritual grounding and awakening.
Well, that's a huge topic. And to be fairly honest, well, I did it myself. So, of course, I had a period in my life that I was interested in it. And I did gain quite a few great insights and great experiences from it. So I'm not going to ditch that as an experience. And everybody has their own path. It's just that the more I started creating certain sensibilities because of my work with my lineages, mm-hmm. the more I saw that there were other things happening in medicine that I'm not that for. It also can actually hurt our energy system because it's a lot of energy and for people's bodies not necessarily have the ability to sustain something. So it can actually make it harder for somebody to have their own connection after. Mm-hmm. So it can bring you a short span, which can be great for somebody who's doubting something and they just want to make sure that spirituality is a thing. But it's not in favor of us creating this system within ourselves. It's too much energy. Actually, yeah, it's a topic that I love, but it's a quite deep topic. It's very focused on how energy work. And if we go into Ayurveda as well, because Ayurveda, which is the arm of yoga, of how energy works, of why we do certain things in certain ways, and the theory of yoga, we will see that when we have a boost of certain energies like that, it's like so much fire in our system that it creates an imbalance in all of our other elements. And that's why yoga for more that, I mean, I know some people can be quite impatient, but that's why yoga is kind of slow because it's building a series of different components within you together so that you can keep sustaining it, so that you can have that yourself and it's yours no matter what. And when you bring like a medicine or something like that, it completely unbalances that. Mm-hmm. It just brings certain components that are completely out of balance with others. So you can have a great experience, but after that, you're going to have to work so hard to rebuild everything that has actually been trashed. So it's, I mean, there are other aspects of it, but for people who really want to have a self-sustained connection, you just have to be a bit mindful of what this is actually doing to the energies inside of us.
Well, I really appreciate your thoughts on that. That's excellent. Thank you for that. Now let's find out about your book, Bullshit-Free Mindfulness, yeah. Guide for Joy in Everyday Life. And how did you come up with that title, and what made you decide to write it?
Yeah, so what made me write this book is that I used to give meditation classes, and that's when I was back working in my office job. So every time I would go to like a party or meet new people and they would ask me what I did, I would say like, oh, I work in this startup and I exercise and I play guitar and I teach meditation. Everybody would focus on the meditation aspect. Uh-huh. And they start talking to me like how hard it is for them to meditate and that they don't do it. But they would say with this tone of shame, as if it was expected of them to meditate, but they didn't. And I thought that was so surprising because nobody was ashamed of not playing guitar, of not exercising, but everybody was talking about meditation. And it came to me this thing that we live in this productive, crazy society. It's all about productivity. And there's so many people talking about how meditation helps you that people were actually feeling bad for not doing something that everybody was talking about. So I wanted to do a book that helped people to connect to themselves and be in the present moment without asking them to meditate. So this book is all about mindfulness without meditation, but it's also very practical, and that's why it's bullshit free. Because mindfulness is something that you just live life in the present moment. It's not something for me. I didn't want to have a book that I was writing 100 pages about the theory of mindfulness. I wanted to write a book that would just help people to do simple practices that would help them connect. So it's extremely practical, because that is my whole take on spirituality. Spirituality is practical. We're here to live, and we can live better lives by connecting more with ourselves. So this book, that is it in a nutshell. How to be more present here now in this life with more joy without needing to do anything that is too hard.
Well, and of course, I will put the link to your book in the show notes of this podcast. Aline Ra M is who we are speaking to. She is an awesome spiritual coach and teacher and healer. If someone is looking for help with gaining clarity, purpose, spiritual guidance, why should they choose you over so many other teachers like you?
Because they want to work with me. I don't have a good answer to that. I think everybody is replaceable in this planet. I don't think anybody needs me. Nobody needs you. Nobody needs everything. Of course, they might suffer a little bit when we grow, but everybody is replaceable. And I don't think that it's sad. I'm actually quite fine with that, because that means that the only reason why I do what I do is because I love it. Mm-hmm. And some people feel called to work with me and some people don't, and that's okay.
And I think it's kind of like what you stated much earlier, that when the student is ready, the teacher will come and they will find you and you will find them.
Yes, that is a beautiful other layer of it. I mean, of course, spiritually speaking, we have so many contracts in our lives and so many purposes. So the people that we end up working with is actually people that we have contracts with. But we don't need to be aware of that. So if I would give a very spiritual answer to your question just before, I would say they would work with me because they have contracts with me. And if they don't have contracts with me, they won't work with me. But we're in the physical. So I would rather, leave it in that sense as well. Because sometimes when we are working our own company, we want to have this like selling point that is unique. And I don't believe in any of that. Nobody's unique. I mean, we're all unique, but nobody's special in a way. Nobody is offering something that nobody else can offer. But we all have our way to communicate that is going to touch some people more than others, because our energy is connected already, and the energy is flowing through us. So that's why somebody would work with me, because our energy in a way is already connected, or is not, and it might be connected with somebody else. And if we are connected, we will find each other, and we will either work together or be friends, or just look at each other on the street, giving a smile, and that would do the energy transfer that we agreed upon.
That's actually a great answer. Thank you. Excellent. So what is the best way for people to connect with you, work with you? What's your website?
Yeah, so the best way to connect with me is going on my website, alineram.com. I have a free ebook there called What is Spiritual Growth, if you would like to go deep into that part and understand what spiritual growth actually entails in a practical way. So you can go to alineram.com/spiritual growth. I'm also on Instagram, aline.ra.m. I don't use it much though, but it exists. So I'd rather say find me on my website. One thing I do is that every single Tuesday I send out an article on spiritual growth. It's something I've been doing for many, many years. I love writing. Writing for me is a big part of my work. So you can also go to my website and sign up to my newsletter, so you get one free blog post on spiritual development every single Tuesday from me.
That's awesome. I did see you have a lot of blog writing on your website. So, well, Aline Ra M, thank you for being on World Awakenings. It was beautiful.
Thank you for having me, Carl. It was really fun talking to you today.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.